Hello. Today I would like to present to you a list of changes that appeared in the latest update of the FlexiProject system. One of the key new features is the introduction of workspaces. These are areas in the system where we can assign projects and elements such as project templates, project charters, or approval paths. We can configure workspaces in the System settings under the Workspaces tab. By default, each organization will now have one workspace, which will be named after the company. The name can be edited and new workspaces can be added. For example, organizational departments such as production, marketing, and sales. In the case of capital groups, there can be separate workspaces for each company. To add a new workspace, click Add, enter the name, and select the assigned color. To edit a workspace, select it from the list. User permissions for a workspace can be assigned in the Users tab. Select a user and at the end of the table choose License and Permissions. After selecting the user, we can assign them to the appropriate workspace, such as Production. Assigning them to a workspace will affect their permissions in the system. For projects, we will be able to define whether the user can create new projects, but only within assigned workspaces, which in this case is within production. There will also be the possibility to view all projects assigned to the production workspace, or to be the administrator of all projects that belong to production. Such a person will not have access to marketing and sales projects unless they are granted individual permissions. This will also affect the Approval Paths tab and project charters. The user will be able to create their own project charters and approval paths, but only within the production workspace. When adding a new project, each of the projects will need to be assigned to a workspace. This option will not be visible if only one workspace is defined in the organization. A project can be assigned to one or more workspaces. To edit the assigned workspace, go to the project. In the project settings, we can edit the assigned workspace. Workspaces will also be defined for elements such as project templates. Similarly, like a project, a template can be assigned to one or more workspaces. Additionally, we can define a workspace for project charters. This way, we can have different project charters in the marketing area and different project charters in the production and sales workspace. The same applies to approval paths. If a project is assigned to the production workspace, it will be able to use only the project templates, project charters, and approval paths assigned to that workspace. Another change introduced in our application is the ability to build an organization structure. We can define the organization structure in the Users tab. Additionally, the Groups tab has been moved from the left side menu to the Users section as another tab. A new tab called Organization Structure has been added as the third tab. The organization structure is based on line manager-subordinate relationships and can have a tree structure. Here, we define departments or teams and assign a manager and employees to each of them. When adding a department, we must provide its name and we can select a color for it. We define the manager and the assigned employees. In the case of a tree structure, we define the top-level line manager and the managers of individual teams. In subordinate departments, we define the manager and the team members. In the organization structure, We will also see how many employees are assigned to a given department and how the license distribution looks within it. A user can be assigned to only one department. If you are integrated with Active Directory or Microsoft Entra ID, the Organization Structure tab will include a button to import the organization structure from Microsoft Entra ID. In the Users tab, we can assign a specific user to the organization structure by defining their line manager. The department will be completed automatically after selecting the line manager. Assignment to the organization structure will be possible for all types of license: free, standard, and full. In the case of a full license, this will affect permissions for the Time Tracking tab and the Resources tab. For department managers, we will be able to set permissions such as tracking their own time tracking entries as well as the time tracking of their subordinates. This way, a department manager will be able to monitor workload and report the hours worked by their team members. Another feature introduced in the system update is the ability to export users in the Users tab. The exported Excel file will contain all information about users: email address, assigned department, assigned license, and the date of the last login. The organizational structure will also affect the allocation of resources. If the organization structure with assigned employees is defined, then in the project schedule, when assigning a user to a task, the assigned department will appear automatically. Let's add 2 new tasks to the schedule. Let's assign an owner to the task. If I assign an owner from the sales department, the department will be filled in automatically. If we assign people from different departments, 2 departments will be assigned to the task. If I remove the owner assigned to the task, their department will also be removed from the task. We can also assign only a department. We do not have to assign a user to the task. I can simply indicate that the task is assigned to a department, even if I do not yet know who will be responsible for completing it. For such tasks, we can also define allocation. Let's say the task starts on Monday and lasts until Friday. 5 days. The next task also runs from Monday to Friday. For each task, we can define how many hours each person must work in order to complete it. When assigning allocation to a task, if a user is assigned, the allocation will be assigned directly to the user. Let's say Olivia needs 40 hours to complete the task. I will also see that Olivia is overloaded. If no user is assigned and a time for completing the task is defined, it will be assigned to a specific department. This will affect the workload of the entire department. On the Gantt chart, we will be able to see resource allocation. The workload will be shown for all users as well as for entire departments. We will also be able to track all tasks assigned to a department, even if no specific user is yet assigned to complete them. The Resources tab has also been redesigned. We will see all users and their workload. In the day view, we can expand all tasks assigned to a user. After expanding, we can see the workload for individual tasks. We can also change the view of resource allocation. For example, display a department user view. This way, we can see users grouped by departments along with the department's workload. We can also see tasks assigned to a department but not yet assigned to any user. It is also possible to set a department project view, showing which projects the department is involved in. Within projects, we can expand to see individual tasks. The Department User Project view is also available. This allows us to see the workload by projects for each user in a department. A User Project view is also available. In the Day view, we can see individual tasks. In the Monthly view, we see aggregate information without breaking it down into individual tasks. Clicking on a month will take us to the Day view, where the tasks are displayed. The way of defining user availability has also changed. Hovering over a user displays a calendar where we can edit their default availability. We can easily navigate to the next month or jump to a specific month of interest. There is also an option to change the unit display from hourly workload to percentage workload. If you do not assign hourly allocation to tasks, you can view the workload quantitatively by the number of tasks. This shows how many tasks are assigned to each user on a specific day. In the system settings, we can define which project statuses are included in this view. This is configured in the Resources tab. Workload counting can be disabled for each status and for archived projects. If we exclude projects with the status of initiative, for example, the workload displayed in the Resources tab will come from all projects except those with the initiative status. On the Resources list, we can click Show Uncounted. As you can see on the screen, the displayed numerical values are completely updated. Due to the Resources redesign, the appearance of the Resources tab in a project has also changed. Similarly, in the daily, weekly, and monthly views, we can track user workloads. We will have access to the user view or the department user view. We can also change the units for tracking user workload, hours, percentages, or the number of assigned tasks. All data can be exported to Excel. You can also choose whether to view workload only for this project or for all projects. Another change in the new FlexiProject update is the project attribute of type function. We can create such an attribute in System Settings under the Project Attributes tab. We will demonstrate its use with two examples. If we have two number type attributes, such as length and width, the function attribute allows us to perform a mathematical operation between them. I already have such an attribute prepared. I will remove them and add a new one. I choose the function type. We give it a name and define, using mathematical operations, what the result of this function will be. On the right side, we have available operators to create mathematical operations. We can also use own values, numeric, date type, or today's dynamic date. For calculations, we can use project attributes of type, number, and date. We can also use data from the schedule, budget, and baseline values. We will use width here, drag in multiplication, and then drag in length. We specify that the result should be rounded to 1 decimal place. We save the attribute. This attribute will be non-editable and calculated automatically based on these two values. A similar example is an attribute to count the number of days from the project start to the MVP date. We have a date type field specifying the project's MVP date. We created a project attribute of type function where we retrieved the MVP date. The result will be a number. It represents the number of days from the project start to the MVP date, minus the start date. Such attributes can be used in reports for filtering and displaying. They can also be applied in project cards. Let's add a project card where we will use these attributes. Let's name it Test and assign it to the production workspace. We can also assign it to multiple workspaces. We will use a number section. We will also add a second date section. We are dragging properties from the project attributes. Here we will have the width. We are dragging the length. We want the area to be calculated based on these two values. This is a function type field. We are also dragging the MVP date. We will also add the project start from the Schedule tab. We want to see how many days have passed from the project start to the MVP date. Let's move on to the sample project. Click Add to add the test project card. I provide a width of 10 meters. Next, I enter a length of 20 meters. A surface area of 200 square meters appears automatically. The start date is automatically taken from the schedule. I can either choose the MVP date from the calendar or link it to an element of the schedule. I will select a specific element of the schedule, for example, Task 2. The number of days from the project start to the MVP date is calculated automatically. If the task is delayed in the schedule, this value in the project card will be updated automatically. Another change in our application is the ability to import a budget into an existing project. In the Budget tab, under the Settings arrow Import button, we have the option to import the budget either from a template or from Excel. In both cases, after importing the data, it will appear at the very end of the already created budget. I am choosing the Excel option. You can also download a template showing how the Excel file should be prepared. The next step is data mapping, adding the file. In the next step, we need to map the columns from Excel. The first row in Excel must always contain headers. FlexiProject will retrieve all elements from the second row down. Here we define the budget structure: name, date, capital expenditure/operational expenditure, supplier, document number, and description. If I click Add, a message will ask whether the imported items are expenses or revenue. Since all elements have the same sign, the system cannot automatically recognize which items are expenses and which are revenue. Therefore, we must declare it. I choose the expenses option. At the end, the elements from the file appear, containing the information from the Excel file. The next significant update in our application is the ability to track deviations from the baseline plan directly in the schedule. Until now, if we had an end date, only the planned end date could be displayed. It was not possible to see the difference between the end date and the planned end date. Now this is possible. To display this information, enable the option under the Columns button. Additionally, in the details for each task, we will see how much the start, end, or duration of the task has been extended. Another update in the latest FlexiProject release concerns the expanded import functionality from Microsoft Project. Until now, when importing a file from Microsoft Project, the system recalculated the schedule based on the dependencies in Microsoft Project. We were shown what changes would occur after uploading the Microsoft Project file. This included a list of tasks with dates from Microsoft Project and the dates after importing into FlexiProject. Because relationships between tasks were recalculated, there were often discrepancies from the Microsoft Project file. Now it is possible to keep the original dates. During the import, you need to choose the Keep Dates option. If there are any relationships between tasks, they will be recalculated strictly to preserve the dates from the file. This way, after importing the file, the dates from the original Microsoft Project file will be preserved. Another change in the new release is the ability to show deviations from the baseline plan in the project card and project reviews. In project card templates and review templates, in the tasks and milestones sections, we can filter items to show only those deviating from the baseline plan. In the Filter window, select the Deviation from Baseline Plan option. Additionally, in the Schedule section, the options to display the initial baseline plans have been added. This applies to both the schedule and the budget-related values. In the Tasks section, we can now also display the start date. Until now, only the end date and planned end date could be displayed. The start date could not be shown in these elements before. Another change concerns selected elements of the schedule, budget, risks, and products. Let's move on to a project card. Using this section in project cards or project reviews, at the project level, we can select multiple elements at the same time. Another change concerns expanding functionalities in project templates that were already available in the project. It is now possible to clone tasks along with subtasks. Additionally, we can now color rows. This coloring will be transferred later to the project. It is now also possible to convert a task into a milestone and a milestone into a task. Another addition in this release is the API documentation. From our website via the Resources tab, you can access developer.flexi-project.com with full API documentation. A comprehensive changelog will also be available, showing all changes and new features introduced in each release. Additionally, there is a dedicated section for frequently asked questions, addressing common queries. The newest addition in this release is our system's mobile application. It will initially be available in the Google Play Store. We encourage you to download our app. In the app, you will see tasks assigned to you. From the app, you can mark a task as completed, add an attachment, and add a comment. That's all for the changes in this release. We encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your attention.